Well, hello everybody. It's nice to see a lot of familiar faces in the crowd. For those who don't know me, my name is Dhalia Bumbacca. Very close, girl. And I co-founded WellFed Community. It's always hard to get up here after the Healthy 22nd Street ladies because I'm just so impressed by everything that you guys do, and every time you talk, there's like more to it. So thank you for sharing it again today. But WellFed Community, as I mentioned, I was a co-founder of, and so one of my other co-founders is in the room today, Chris, if you want to wave, and then two other women, Savannah and Richa. And so I share this team because, similar actually to the Healthy 22nd Street, we came together over shared values, right? Shared interest in seeing our community be better and knowing the value that was already lying and just like needed to be awakened. And so each of us have our own kind of food story of why we got brought into this work. And I won't do everybody's justice, but Richa, she's in her residency now at the Mayo Clinic, and she had a passion for food as medicine and how we can make our communities healthier. She's also Indian American, and so grew up with like a veggie-rich Indian diet, and just had a lot of experience with healthy, nutritious foods. Savannah is like 4th or 5th generation Tampa, and she found veganism because of her passion for sustainability and kind of what food systems is really, how it's impacting our environment. And then Chris, talk to her later, but she has so much experience as a PhD in veterinary sciences, growing up in Brazil and working on World Bank grants that supported rural family farmers. Everybody brought such a unique perspective to the table. And so from a show of hands here, who knows like the why behind their work in community gardening? Yeah. Who found it after entering the space? So everybody just knew going into it that this is what they wanted to do. And so the reason I ask that question is because I think oftentimes some of us are just so strong in who we are, we know exactly what we're doing as we're doing it. I'm not that person. And so I figured out why I was so passionate about this work. I knew I loved food, I knew this was a space I wanted to be in, but it wasn't until actually co-founding WellFed that all these pieces of my life started to come together. Can you get a clicker? Okay. Okay. And so here's me up on the screen with my sister. I'm probably under 2 in this photo, and we're in the process of making pasta. As for those who know me, specifically gnocchi, they know that I love to share the recipe for gnocchi, which is like an Italian dumpling, because I find it, in this photo, you can see what we're making looks nothing like what gnocchi's supposed to look like. And that's because my grandmother was always super flexible in how she cooked. She taught us to cook with all 5 senses, and our gnocchi didn't look anything like it was supposed to look, but she enjoyed it with us, she celebrated it with us, and that went across the board with the things that we prepared. My grandmother's from Italy. She immigrated in her young adulthood, and she had a couple acre property. And we had apple trees and pear trees and about an acre of in-ground gardening just behind her house. And I remember growing up and thinking, oh, I have to go pick from the garden. It's so far away for my little legs. And she would douse us in vinegar to avoid the bugs. And so I'm talking about face, I just smelled like it for the rest of the day. And it was something that I loved in moments and hated when we were, preparing all the food for the winter and processing all these vegetables and, even meats from her brother's farm and things like that. But I had this wonderful upbringing surrounded by food. And yet I forgot about it. I moved away and I was a young adult here in the United States, so I was born in Canada. And I kind of lost it for a little bit. I pursued degrees in finance and, was working in sports and just kind of let food be kind of a background to my life. And COVID was actually what inspired WellFed. It inspired us to harness all of our food experiences. And seeing a lot of services stop providing, or organizations stop providing services, we felt that we needed to do the opposite and double down and kind of create programs that were safe and accessible. And so we partnered with Well-Built Cities and the Kinship Free Market and started doing demos and started doing cooking classes. And that brings us to, if you don't mind, the next slide, Kitty, what WellFed was looking to solve, address. We don't believe we can actually fix the issue, but we saw so much hunger, right? And COVID exacerbated that. And we saw the work of the Kinship Free Market and how they've been working with families for over 2 decades, distributing food, and the lineups are only getting longer. And then on top of that, when we approached John and we said, how can we help you, right? We have this interest in food education. We want to teach people all the things that we know about cooking and gardening, but what can we do that will support your existing work? And he said, hey, we get so much fresh food at the Kinship Free Market. It's mainly perishable food. And at the end of the day, the canned tuna and the ramen noodles are gone, but the eggplants, the zucchinis, the artichokes, that's being left behind. And so if you could figure out a way that people are fighting over the eggplant and the canned tuna stays on the shelf, you'll have done something for our organization and our community. And so right now, in today's society, we see this problem of hunger, and oftentimes we solve it with those processed food, those canned things filled with sodium and soy. And the outcome is that we're less healthy, right? We're either obese or we're hungry. And then we fix that with medications. And then the result, you have less happy, healthy people. And then in terms of our planet, we heard Dr. Dorsey talk about how these large industrial food systems we created are degrading our soil and affecting our climate. And we saw that with more pesticides, which in turn produce lower nutritionally dense food. And so we're not really getting to the root of the problem here, right? Ultimately, hunger doesn't exist because of a lack of supply. It exists because of poverty and low income and all these other contributing factors and inequitable access that are really why our communities need food. And so on the next slide, you'll see that at WellFed Community, we work to build a healthy relationship with food. And this component of relationship is really what I want to emphasize on. So that you're not thinking about gardening as something that is laborious, right? But liberating, as was mentioned. And so we do that in a number of different ways. And so in practice, WellFed is working to create accessible programming. So you can go to Publix, actually I think they stopped the Apron program, but you could go to some of these large organizations and pay $150 for a cooking class. But personally, I don't want to pay $150 for a cooking class. And so when we say accessible, we're focused on low cost, mobile, so can we get to the communities that we want to serve, and adaptable, right? Can we serve communities differently and create programming that makes sense for a specific group of people? And so that looks like cultural cooking classes where we, highlight a different country's food in our classes and have community members actually be the chef or the host of that class and really just come in to support. That looks like food and nutrition demos where we'll highlight a specific ingredient that's available in a food bank or in a community garden to make sure that it's the accessibility piece is how can you use that if it's not inside your usual repertoire of cooking. We do some STEM programming, so can we look at the interdisciplinarity of food, right? And so that looks like an aquaponics program at a local Fab Lab, where kids are thinking about how can we grow food indoors, how can we grow food in an urban environment. And then we do other forms of youth education at our community garden and various other people who come and want to work with our team. We also try to work at the systems level. So like I mentioned, this problem is bigger than even that anyone's capable of solving, but can we start to kind of uncover some of the potential solutions and really highlight the benefit of certain approaches. And so we work as researchers and consultants in partnership with the Food Sovereignty Initiative of USF, with Homegrown Hillsborough at the county level, to really try to address these issues, not at just the community level, but at the macro level. And then our key principle is collaboration. We do nothing alone. Absolutely nothing. If there's any of our programs, I can point you towards who our partner is, who helped us shape it, and that goes everything from the organization to the community member. We're working to make sure that we're going deeper into the existing work that Tampa already had, because we're a 3-year-old program and part of a 20-year-old organization, but there's people that have been doing this work for 50, 100 years, and so we want to really just keep building off of that great work. You can go to the next slide, Kitty. It's also important to note that we're a social enterprise. And so we co-founded this organization intentionally as a social enterprise. And so what that means is a business, whether for-profit or non-profit, with specific social objectives that serve its primary purpose. And so what that means is we actually founded WellFed as an LLC. Founded it under a nonprofit umbrella, which meant that it could still benefit from tax exemption, but that it could be more independent in generating revenue that served the objective of building healthier communities. And so all the programs that we do have a fee associated with them. We work on a sliding scale though to make sure that it's accessible again. And so sometimes that fee is $0, $500 brought down to zero. And that's because we want to make sure that we begin the relationship. And then once the relationship's built, can we grant write together? Can we identify donors together? Can we build into the budget the following year? And we've had a lot of success where we have partners that start off, like the University area CBC, that was an in-kind donation of resources to make that program launch. And now it's a budgeted item that we see over year after year. And so that's kind of our model. It's recognizing that the great work that we do to make it sustainable, there needs to be compensation at times. And my background's also in finance. So that was a big pillar for me and why we're so excited to join hands with WellFed Cities, who is already doing that work. And so just to give you some ideas, because of our commitment to social enterprise, from when we founded, or I guess this was our second year, from our second year to now, we've been able to 4x our budget. And 32% of that number you see for 2024 is revenue generated. So that's not grants, that's not donors, that's our own dollars. And the reason that's so important is because that is what gives us flexibility. And so we're not tied to grant objectives. We're not tied to donors' wishes. We can see what the community needs and respond in real time. And that's kind of going to impact kind of what I want to share about our program. So the last piece that's a core pillar of what we do is food sovereignty. And so we heard a little bit about this earlier. And food sovereignty is, the technical definition, the right of people to healthy and culturally appropriate food and to define their own food systems. Now, by a show of hands, based on that definition, who gets what it is? A couple hands, right? Kitty's also cheating. She's heard us. She's heard about it before. And so it's theoretical a lot of the time. And what we really try to do is make it actionable and understand what that looks like. And so for some examples, food sovereignty talks about how to build knowledge and skills. And so what we do is hosting that cultural cooking class. We're sharing ways that you can make cultural dishes a little bit healthier. So for example, if we're going to make arepas, we're going to make sure that there's fiber, because that's going to help reduce your insulin spike that comes with eating carbs. We're going to make sure there's protein so that you're fuller longer, right? And so providing that knowledge and those skills is what's actually building someone's individual independence in providing for themselves. Another really good example of food sovereignty, or what I like to also emphasize with food sovereignty, is that it doesn't necessarily have to be achieved by the individual, right? We need to achieve it as a community, and we have. Our traditional food systems, when these small towns all across the nation and all across the world operated, they operated on a community food system. You traded goods, right? You depended on each other. My grandmother grew up in a small rural town. No food during World War II. No food came from outside of their little mountain town, right? They traded amongst each other and were able to feed and be well and be healthy. And so this isn't an unachievable goal. I experienced it as a kid. Between my network of immigrant Italians, we had farmers, we had butchers, we had people who grew. We came together 25 plus at the end of the summer and prepared obviously we still access the grocery store, but our cellars were filled with food. And so those are tangible examples of community food sovereignty. We don't need to think about it like everybody has a 3-acre garden that they're eating out of, right? And it makes it a little bit more achievable. And so getting into a little bit about our program itself. Oh, actually, no, sorry. First, I want to introduce you to Virgin. And so Virgin really was an inspiration point for when we started kind of pivoting our work to be focused less on the programmatic, reaching the masses perspective to investing in individuals. And so Virgin was a recipient of our Kitchen Free Market, and she had recently been diagnosed with multiple autoimmune diseases. And a lot of them, recommendations have been given to her that she could, solve or remedy a lot of the situations she was in with food. And so when she came to our Kitchen Free Market and she saw WellFed doing a food demonstration, she became super engaged. And she was really excited to hear from our team and know how she could utilize food as medicine. Shortly afterwards, she asked to volunteer with us because she wanted to spread the message and share what she was learning. And so she started to volunteer at that same site, providing the education. We saw in her that same passion, her own food story. And we brought her onto our team as a paid role, and now she helps facilitate our programming. And she came to us maybe 6 months, maybe a year into working with us, and shared that she had not only lost 50 pounds because of her time spent educating and learning and developing herself as a food professional, but she felt a sense of community and recognized the role that food was going to play for her in her health and well-being. And so Virgin was the inspiration behind the Community Food Ambassador Program, where we said, let's focus on investing in individuals and giving them all the tools that they need to succeed to be able to facilitate programming themselves and see real change in the communities that they live in. And then that helped us expand our work. Now we can serve more people, right? We can serve Virgins from Puerto Rico. And so now programming can be in full Spanish, right? And so she was really the inspiration behind this idea. And then, like I said, everything we do is in collaboration. And so we said, hey, Kitty, Lena, Michelle, the work you're doing with the Healthy 22nd Street group is so similar to what we saw in Virgin and what we want to do at a bigger level. And so we partnered together and we said, let's recreate the Healthy 22nd Street in the university area. And let's make sure to incorporate a lot of the values that you found through the Community Food Ambassador Program that you're doing with these couple community members. And let's create something that could achieve this shared vision we have in a different community. And so that's what we did. And so over the past, from the beginning of this year, we launched the Community Food Ambassador Program with the coalition and with Dee from 813 Cook Garden, which you'll hear from later today. But so I won't tell you her food story, I'll let her share that. But we partnered all together to say, okay, the 813 Cook Garden is in the university area. It has an established presence. It has a phenomenal leader, and who's familiar with the Healthy 22nd Street project. And let's try it again. And so we started doing that. We hosted our first community meal as a way to engage residents and get them excited about joining the program. We did this. I guess that's all I have to say about that. But it was a really fun event. We hosted our first workshop, and so participants of the program, similarly to Healthy 22nd, will get a front barrel garden that they can bring into their own home and be able to apply all the techniques and kind of skills that they're learning in food, in nutrition, in sustainability in their own place. And they'll also, sorry, I'm still on the other one for a little bit longer. They'll also have the opportunity to come and learn from us at the 813 Cook Garden and gain all those skills again and foster community, right? And so oftentimes it's really hard to point at what you're aiming for with programs like this, but it's really simple. It's these ladies right here. That's what we're aiming for with this program. And so we're just going to hope to do it again. Another important piece to note that's a part of this program is that we're also aiming at a commercial mobile kitchen. And so we hope that this can act as a physical infrastructure piece that could support not only so we're calling it the Food and Garden Club in the university area, not only the Food and Garden Club, but also other organizations, right? Can this be a tool that we can collectively use at our community gardens, our urban agriculture sites, our organizations' offices? Because right now we find that there's a lack of infrastructure available to us as gardeners, as urban agriculturalists, as food educators, to really work in the communities that we want to work in. So if anyone's been to one of our programs, you know that oftentimes, we're in dirt, where it's popping up, I think for the herb one, we had like rain barrels upside down as our tables. Like, we really make it work, but it's challenging and we want to go farther. And so the mobile commercial kitchen will allow us to do that. It will turn, the 813 Hood Garden off of like Limeball there into a commercial kitchen space where we have water and heat and stoves and microwaves and everything we might need to make a program more robust. And so we're really excited about that. Ultimately, what we're trying to do with WellFed, between the pillars of food sovereignty and this idea of social enterprise, and this idea of investing in people and transferring knowledge and skills and power locally, is to create a local economy around food. And so food in the United States is a $1.5 trillion industry. Can we capture some of that? And so that this program can feed into people working with WellFed, people working with 813 Garden, people working with the coalition, with any of the organizations? Or can they become their own food entrepreneurs or their own food, and create their own food initiatives within the city of Tampa, within Tampa Bay? And so we're hoping to capture some of these dollars and translate them into other social enterprise, other social work centered around our food system and centered around urban agriculture. And so with all that, I want to make sure to point out that you can be a part of this all too. And so we have a couple different ways that you can engage with our work. One is join us. If you live or work in the university area or know someone who does, introduce us to them and make sure that they know that this program is happening. It's a rolling program, right? So it's not like you have to be with us on day one. You can join us on day 6. So we want to have you there, and we want to be able to teach you the things that we feel so passionately about. And learn from you as well. It's not like everybody needs to be at ground zero. Miss Hilda, who showed up to our community dinner, she's been gardening for 50 years. But she just wants to do it in community. And so that's what we're really trying to showcase. You can volunteer with us. That's okay. And you can donate to the work. And you can look for us around the community. So these are, Dee has it set up back there, but these are our little signs and barrels. And so you can look for us and kind of see where the program is taking off from. And otherwise, you can get in touch. Next slide. No, that's okay. You can get in touch. So you scan this QR code, it'll take you to our website and a couple other resources that we have. You can also find us online, and we're going to be putting updates about the program and the program resources. So you can, if you're interested in replicating it again. And you can follow us on Instagram at WellFed Community. You can also follow Dee's 813 Hood Garden. That's the whole thing. 813 Hood Garden for a lot of program updates as well. And we look forward to getting to know you too. And that's what I got. And I think we're out of time.